All right. So today, let's do a deep dive into something that I think a lot of people are curious about.
Okay.
And that is the sneaky ways
Yeah.
that depression can show up,
Right.
besides just,
Mm.
feeling down in the dumps.
Yeah.
We all have those days where we feel a little bit sad or whatever.
Ours.
You sent in this article,
Right.
11 mental signs you might have depression.
Mm-hmm.
And so clearly you're curious about, those less obvious signs.
Yeah, absolutely.
And believe me, some of these really surprised me when I was reading through this.
Yeah, depression can be a bit of a chameleon,
Yeah.
It doesn't always present in the stereotypical way.
It really doesn't.
Yeah.
Like, for example, did you know that constipation could be linked
Oh, wow.
to depression, or that, like, getting lost in nostalgia could actually be your brain trying to coach with something?
Right.
Like, who knew?
Yeah, those are definitely some of the more unexpected signs, for sure.
Totally. But,
Mhm.
let's start with something I think we can all relate to,
Okay.
and that is irritability.
Yeah,
We all have those days
for sure.
where, we're just a little bit short-fused.
Absolutely.
But how do we know if it's just a bad day or, if it's something more?
That's a great question. And I think with depression, the irritability tends to be
Yeah.
more intense,
Yeah.
more frequent, and triggered by things that wouldn't normally bother you.
Right.
So it's almost like your emotional volume knob is permanently turned up. So even minor annoyances can feel
I like that.
completely overwhelming.
Volume knob, yeah.
Yeah.
So is that what you're saying? Like those days when you find yourself snapping at your loved ones over, like, spilled milk or something?
Right.
That could be a sign.
It very well could be, especially if it's happening, more often than usual, or if it feels really out of proportion to the situation at hand.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this next one,
Okay.
I have to admit, this one really threw me for a loop.
Really?
Nostalgia. I always thought reminiscing about the good old days was like a healthy thing.
Right.
Like a good way to boost your mood. But this article suggests
Yeah.
that it can actually be a sign of depression.
It can be, and it's actually quite fascinating because nostalgia can be a very powerful coping mechanism
Oh.
because it allows us to temporarily escape present difficulties by retreating to a mental space
Right.
where we felt happier or more secure.
So like self-soothing,
Exactly.
but with memories.
Yeah, and our brains are wired to seek pleasure and avoid pain.
Right.
So it's natural to gravitate towards thoughts and memories that make us feel good.
Sure.
The problem is that when we dwell on the past excessively,
Right.
it can prevent us from dealing with present challenges and moving forward.
Okay, so how do we know then if our nostalgia is healthy or if it's kind of veering into unhealthy territory?
I think it's a matter of degree and intention.
Okay.
So, occasional trips down memory lane
Yeah.
are perfectly normal, even beneficial.
Right.
But if you find yourself constantly longing for the past,
Yeah.
using it to avoid current responsibilities
Uh-huh.
or relationships, or feeling stuck in a cycle of what ifs and if only,
Wow.
that's a sign that the nostalgia might be masking deeper issues.
It's like using rose-colored glasses
Yeah.
to like blur out the present.
Exactly. And that can be a slippery slope
Yeah.
because it prevents us from fully engaging with our lives and working through challenges that need to be addressed.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Okay, this next one is a little bit of a head-scratcher for me. I'm not going to lie.
Okay.
Constipation and depression?
Yeah.
How
So
are those two even remotely connected?
this one seems a little strange. I know, but there's growing evidence of a
Okay.
strong link between gut health and mental health.
Interesting.
Did you know that a significant portion of our neurotransmitters, those chemicals that regulate mood,
Right.
are actually produced in the gut?
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Had no idea.
So what's happening in our digestive system
Wow.
can actually impact how we feel emotionally.
So it's not just about
Two-way street.
feeling backed up. It could actually be a sign of a deeper imbalance.
Exactly. And in fact, one
Wow.
study found that a third of constipated people showed signs of major depressive disorder.
Wow, that's a pretty strong correlation.
It is.
So, while not everyone with constipation is depressed,
Right. Of course.
it's definitely something
That's
worth
so-
paying attention to.
Yeah, it really highlights the importance of taking a holistic view of health
Right.
and understanding how seemingly unrelated systems in our bodies can influence each other.
Yeah. And that actually kind of leads perfectly into this next one, which is something I think a lot of us can relate to, which is stress during downtime.
Oh, yeah.
So, you finally have that week off work.
Right.
You've cleared your schedule.
Yeah.
And instead of feeling relaxed and rejuvenated,
Yeah.
you're suddenly hit with this wave of anxiety.
It seems so counterintuitive,
I
right? We
know.
crave a break from the daily grind.
Yeah.
But for some people,
Yeah.
unstructured time can actually be a trigger
Yeah.
for anxiety and low mood,
Right.
especially if they're struggling with depression.
Is it because, like, all of a sudden there's nothing to distract you from your own thoughts?
That's definitely part of it. You know, when we're constantly busy, we have all these external distractions that keep our minds occupied.
Yeah.
But when those distractions disappear,
Yeah.
our internal world can become much louder.
And for someone with depression,
Yeah,
that internal world might be filled with,
exactly.
negative thoughts, self-doubt,
Right.
lack of motivation.
Depression can really zap your energy and make it hard to engage in activities
Right.
you used to enjoy. So when faced with an empty schedule,
Right.
instead of feeling excited about all the possibilities, you might just feel overwhelmed and lost.
Right.
And even more aware of those negative feelings.
It's like your brain goes into overdrive,
It does.
trying to fill the void.
Yeah.
But all it can come up with is more negativity.
That's a great way to put it. And
Yeah.
without the structure and routine of work or other commitments,
Yeah.
it's easier to fall into patterns of rumination and negative self-talk,
Oh, for sure.
which can make those depression symptoms even worse.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's almost like that unstructured time can become like a breeding ground for negative thoughts.
It
If you're
can.
not careful.
Yeah.
Speaking of mental struggles, let's talk about concentration.
Okay.
You know that feeling when you're trying to like read a book or watch a movie,
Right.
but your mind just keeps wandering,
Absolutely.
like you just can't seem to focus?
Yeah, that difficulty concentrating is a very common symptom of depression.
Is it just like I'm not interested, or is there something more going on?
It's definitely more than just a lack of interest.
Right.
Depression can actually impair your cognitive abilities,
Oh, wow.
including your ability to focus and sustain attention.
So it's not just me being, easily distracted. It's like an actual thing with my brain.
It is.
Wow.
When you're depressed, your mind is often preoccupied with negative thoughts and worries.
Right.
It's like having a constant background noise that makes it difficult to tune into anything else.
And the article made a really important distinction about this not being the same as ADHD.
Right.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so while both conditions can involve difficulty concentrating, they have different underlying causes and require different approaches to treatment.
Gotcha.
ADHD is a neurodevelopmental disorder
Right.
that affects attention and impulse control,
Okay.
whereas in depression, the difficulty concentrating is often a symptom of the underlying mood disorder.
So it's important to get the right diagnosis.
It is, absolutely.
Because, a treatment that might work for one might not work for the other.
Exactly.
Okay.
Understanding that root cause is really key.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit
Okay.
and talk about something that might be a little bit more fun.
Okay.
Impulsive behavior.
All right.
Have you ever found yourself like scrolling online
Oh, yeah.
and then all of a sudden you've added like
Oh.
a dozen things to your shopping cart
Yep.
that you definitely don't need?
The allure of online shopping,
I know.
it gets at all.
So is that what's happening there? It's like impulsive behavior.
Right.
It's a way to seek
It can be,
immediate gratification.
yeah, a temporary escape from
Okay.
negative feelings.
So it's like that quick hit of dopamine.
Exactly.
Okay.
And, well, retail therapy now and then can be harmless.
Of course.
But if you find yourself engaging in these impulsive behaviors more frequently
Okay.
or in ways that are causing problems in your life,
Right.
it might be worth examining those underlying motivations.
So like maybe you're trying to fill an emotional void
Exactly.
or distract yourself from something that's uncomfortable.
Precisely. Understanding that root cause can help you develop
Right.
healthier coping mechanisms and
Yeah.
make more conscious choices.
Okay, this one's fascinating and
Okay.
kind of scary at the same time. Unexplained aches and pains.
Yeah,
The article mentioned that people with depression often experience physical pain.
they do.
Why is that?
It all comes back to that powerful mind-body connection
Right.
we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Depression doesn't just impact our mental state.
Uh-huh.
It can have very real physical effects on our bodies as well.
But how can something like sadness, like because actual physical pain?
Well, when we're depressed,
Yeah.
our bodies are in this bitten state of stress.
Okay.
And this can lead to inflammation,
Yeah, I know.
muscle tension, and changes in our nervous system
Right.
that manifest as physical discomfort.
So it's not just that people are like imagining the pain.
Right.
It's like a physiological response to the emotional state.
Exactly.
Right.
And so while it's important to rule out any underlying medical conditions,
Sure.
it's also crucial to acknowledge the role that mental health plays in
Yeah.
our overall well-being.
Makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's talk about guilt.
Right.
We all make mistakes.
Yeah, of course.
But sometimes that guilt
Yeah.
can feel so all-consuming.
It can.
Like you just can't shake it off.
Yeah.
Like a heavy weight that you're carrying around.
And that persistent excessive guilt is actually a hallmark symptom of
Right.
depression.
Really?
The American Psychological Association even defines it as misinterpreting everyday events as evidence of personal defects,
Wow.
leading to this overwhelming sense of responsibility and self-blame.
So it's like you're constantly beating yourself up
Exactly.
for things that are either out of your control or
Right.
that other people wouldn't even think twice about.
Yeah. And this excessive guilt can seep into every aspect of your life,
Right.
making it difficult to enjoy things,
Mhm.
connect with others, or even function effectively.
It's a heavy burden to carry.
It is.
Okay, get ready for this one.
All right.
Psoriasis and depression.
Yeah.
So skin problems.
Yeah. This
And
one
the
might seem
color.
like a strange pairing,
It does.
but research has shown a significant overlap between these two conditions.
Interesting.
Psoriasis is an inflammatory skin condition.
Right.
And inflammation is increasingly being linked to mood disorders,
Okay.
like depression.
So is it the inflammation itself that's affecting mood, or is it more the stress
It's like
of dealing with a chronic condition?
It's likely a combination of factors.
Okay.
The inflammation itself
Yeah.
may trigger changes in the brain
Mhm.
that contribute to depression,
Interesting.
and the psychological toll of living with a visible money,
Yeah.
often painful condition,
Right.
can also take its toll on mental health.
So it's like a double whammy.
It is.
So it's important to address
Exactly.
both the physical and the emotional.
Treating the psoriasis can help improve mood,
Right.
and managing the depression
Yeah.
can make it easier to cope with the challenges of the skin condition.
Okay, we're in the home stretch now.
All right.
Let's talk about work.
Okay.
We all want to feel successful and competent in our
Right.
jobs,
Yeah.
but sometimes those feelings of inadequacy
Mm-hmm.
can run pretty deep.
They can, and depression can amplify those feelings.
Right.
Making it difficult to see your accomplishments
Right.
and value your contributions.
So even if you're objectively doing well,
Exactly.
you might still feel like a failure.
Depression can really distort your perception,
Wow.
making it hard to recognize your strengths
Mm-hmm.
and focus on your successes.
Okay.
It can also sap your motivation and energy,
Right.
making even simple tasks feel overwhelming.
And that can create a vicious cycle, right?
It can.
Because the more you feel like you're failing,
Right.
the worse the depression gets. And
Exactly.
the harder it is to actually function at work.
It's important to break that cycle by challenging those negative thoughts,
Yeah.
focusing on small wins,
Yeah.
and seeking support from colleagues or supervisors.
Okay, last but not least,
What?
we need to address kind of a sensitive topic,
Okay.
but it's an important one.
Yeah.
Changes in personal hygiene.
Okay.
We all have those days where we, hit the snooze button one too many times.
Right.
And maybe skip the shower.
Sure.
But when does it become a red flag?
That's a good question. And it's
Yeah.
one of those subtle signs that can easily be overlooked.
Okay.
Depression can really drain your energy and motivation
Sure.
to the point that even basic self-care tasks
Right.
feel overwhelming.
So it's not about being lazy.
Not at all.
Not caring about your appearance.
It's about recognizing that depression can impact
Right.
your ability to function
Gotcha.
in even the most basic ways.
It's like your brain is in survival mode.
Exactly.
And showering just doesn't make it onto the priority list.
And it's important to remember this isn't a personal failing. It's a
Right.
symptom of an illness
Yeah.
that needs to be addressed.
Wow. It's amazing how many different ways
Yeah.
depression can show up.
It really is.
And it's so important to recognize those subtle signs,
Right.
not just in ourselves, but in the
Yeah.
people we care about as well.
Absolutely. The more we understand about depression, the better equipped we are to support ourselves
Right.
and those around us.
This deep dive has definitely opened my eyes to the complexity of, mental health.
Yeah.
It's not just about feeling sad.
Right.
It's about how those feelings can manifest
Uh-huh.
in our bodies, our behaviors,
Exactly.
and even our relationship.
It's a reminder that seeking help
Yeah.
is a sign of strength,
Right.
not weakness.
For sure.
There's no shame in reaching out for support when you're
and-
struggling.
So if you're resonating with any of these signs that we've discussed today, what would you recommend as like a first step?
The most important thing is to talk to someone.
Okay.
It could be a trusted friend, a
Yeah.
family member, a therapist, or
Yeah.
your doctor.
Okay.
Just sharing your experiences and feelings with someone you trust
Yeah.
can be incredibly helpful.
And there are so many resources available now
There are.
to help people who are struggling with depression, right?
Absolutely. There are effective treatments like therapy and medication as well as lifestyle changes that can make a big difference.
And with the rise of telehealth,
Yeah,
it seems like accessing mental health care
it
is
is.
becoming more and more convenient and
Yes,
accessible
much more than it used to be.
than ever before.
Yeah,
It feels like the stigma surrounding mental health
I
is
agree.
finally starting to fade,
Yeah, I think so too.
and people are feeling more comfortable reaching out for help.
It's definitely a positive shift,
Yeah.
and it's creating this ripple effect of awareness and compassion.
Right. And the more we talk about mental health, the
Exactly.
more we normalize it,
Uh-huh.
and the less alone people feel.
I think that's so important.
So to kind of wrap things up here,
Okay.
let's go back to why you sent in this article in
Yeah.
the first place. You were curious about the less obvious signs of depression.
Right.
We've explored 11 of them in detail today.
We have.
What are some things that particularly stood out to you?
Yeah, what surprised you?
What surprised you?
Mm-hmm.
I think what surprised me the most
Okay.
was the connection between gut health and mental health.
Yeah.
I never really realized how much our digestive system
Right.
could actually impact our mood.
It's fascinating, isn't
It
it?
really is.
Our gut microbiome plays such a crucial role
Wow.
in our overall well-being.
Yeah, it's made me think twice about what I'm putting into my body.
That's a great takeaway.
What about you?
Well, I think for me, the section on nostalgia really resonated.
Okay.
I've definitely caught myself using memories as a way to escape from present challenges.
Uh-huh.
So I'm going to try to be more mindful of that moving forward.
Yeah, me too. I think it's so important to be aware of those
It is.
coping mechanisms
Yeah,
and to make sure they're not preventing us from
Right.
really living fully in the present moment.
absolutely.
Well, this deep dive has been incredibly insightful,
It has.
and I really hope it's been helpful for our
Yes.
listeners as well.
Yeah, I hope so.
Just remember,
Yeah.
taking care of your mental health is
Mm.
just as important as taking care of your physical health.
Absolutely.
And if you're struggling, please know that you're not alone.
You're not.
There is help available,
That is.
and recovery is possible.
Is.
So don't hesitate to reach out for support.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been great having you.
Until next time, keep learning,
Yes.
keep exploring, and keep taking care of yourselves.
That was sad.
So